Hello. Welcome to a presentation video of Kendjis flavor mod. I think it's version 54-ish at the moment. So the last video was at version 20 something, so there's again a pretty significant jump since the last video. So just to first show some of the changes. So for example, here you can see some flag changes, some good, some I'm not too happy with them, but and then you see faction rosters have been revamped. And with this version, actually every minor faction has had its faction roster revamped. Some factions may still have their rosters revamped. So for example, we have Trace here. Many of the units here are the vanilla ones, but I've given many of their local units to their faction roster, which means if you play Trace, you go to, I don't know, Crete or somewhere, you can still recruit all of these guys. Plus, I've given them a completely new unit from scratch. The Thracian Sword Guard, which is essentially just a sword version of the Thracian Guard, which is a spear version. Then we have like the Scythians, which have a lot of Amazon units. Then we have actually Israel, the controversial faction, though the flag is different from the Israel mod that I and Avila made, but with Avila's permission, the Israel faction units from that mod has now also been ported over. They weren't ported over previously, and their roster were actually similar to that one of Gebel or Gubla / Byblos for any layman who doesn't know the native name. We have a lot of changes to like roster. So Assyria now has a bigger roster, including the Sabu Nagib. I think the term is actually from Akkadian, maybe. I'm not completely sure about the term, but I think it's Akkadian for slave soldier. And then we have for example, Haya Asi up here with one new unit. We have Lulubi with, you can see he's actually not holding a sword but a club. So a somewhat similar unit to the one over here, but slightly different, and he should also look a bit different with. And then we have Elam here, or Halatamti, which is the native name, that got 3 new faction units. And in Egypt we have, for example, the Libu, who have 1 new unit. We have, oh, why can't I click him? Here we go. We have what is called Kopeshir Kemet. And he has 2 marine units that I gave him, plus all these factions also may have other revamps of their rosters. So we have independent Kush here with a bunch of, as you probably guessed, Kushite units, and even some Nubian units, even though Kush and Nubia aren't one-to-one. Nubia is like the entire area, while Kush is, I think, 2/3 of the southern part of Nubia. So if we just quickly jump into one faction here. Let's go with the controversial one, Israel. Anyhow, I'll teleport, so be right. Hello, welcome back. So yeah, basically Zing, we re-teleported. I forgot to enact some of the campaign settings. I'm pretty noob at this video thing yet, but anyhow. So the thing that I wanted to show you weren't actually Israel, but all these faction, not faction, but settlement names. So if you see in the previous video, you already know what's this all is about. But anyhow, there are a lot of, especially in Anatolia, faction renames, because a lot of these renames are in the wrong place. For example, this used to be Samuha, but Samuha is actually on this side of the river, while Kusara, we don't actually know where Kusara is, but it's east of Kanesh and south of this river, which means somewhere over here is Kusara. And since Samuha was in the wrong place, I decided to replace that with a known name. Many of the actually names from this era, we actually know a lot of settlement names in Anatolia, but we don't really know where each settlement may have been and if they correspond to a later, say, Greek name of the same area. And for example, we had Nerik here, but Nerik is actually around this area. So there's like a lot of distance between where a settlement used to be and where it actually ended up being in vanilla. Also, there are some factions that have changed positions. So for example, Shubru used to be up here, where Haya is right now. And that's just because the places that these factions and these places were at is wrong, or while other places like in Mesopotamia, their biggest problem weren't that most of these places were or are in the wrong places, except for maybe Dinictum here. The problem here were that the names were inconsistent, so they might have been too old for this period or too new. So for example, the name Babylon, the people of Babylon wouldn't actually have said they're from Babylon, but actually from how do you pronounce it? Babilim, something like that, because they would have spoken Akkadian. We also have like Kaluhu here, which was renamed Ninua, not Nineveh, etc. While in this area, a lot of the names are actually just ripped from the Israel mod. So they're, I don't know, Israel inspired. Some may not like that, but hey, whatever. In Egypt, the situation was actually quite good. Around the Kemet area, which is the area around the Nile. Except here, for example, there's like one settlement, there's maybe one settlement or like Chow here. But the biggest problem with Egypt is actually the desert areas. So yeah, basically the situation is decent. However, many of the, like Nuba here, many of the changes are actually more cosmetic when it comes to Egypt. So you may have flag changes, you may have leaders changing names. Here we have Kanchitri. So anyone who's read the history should know who Kanchitri is. If you don't know, then you don't know history of this period. We have Romaroy, also historical dude. If you don't know the history, shame on you. But the same as with Mesopotamia, with Dinictum, we have like Hardai here, that should be more west, and we have such things. But overall, I would say the situation is way, way, way better here than what it is in this area. So yeah, and in addition, you can probably see that there are some
warrior.
let's see if we can check out some flag
Stand
changes.
strong.
So a lot of the Canaanite
I will defend my home.
factions now have, you know, similarly themed flags, including our Israel here, and then Gebel over here. Their, you know, lettering, while other factions may have minor, you know, theme changes. So Irsu has a, in my opinion, better lion faction. The Aram Damascus has an Aramean, you know, symbol, etc, etc, etc. So and then we also have the administration, the tier system that has now been rebalanced, which I actually really like, because the later tiers will start hitting you faster and faster and faster once you pass the first tier into the second one. And yeah, anyhow, I think that's everything. There's like a lot of things that has been changed and tweaked and everything. So overall, if you combine this mod with the anti-stackifier and the mod that gives you more options to turn down the replenishment, and if you combine this with other such mods, this should actually end up being an experience that's harder than legendary. Makes legendary seem more like mid-tier or noob play. But yeah, anyhow, I think I've rambled on for long enough. See you later, alligators.